Hi class, I hope you've had a chance to pick up our required textbook Blogging by Jill Walker Retberg. We're using the 2008 edition published by Polity Press. In this lecture presentation, we'll be looking at the first reading assignment, Chapter 1, What is Blogging? And then we'll delve into an important aspect of online writing and communication, hypertext. A quick reminder, if any of you need to contact me beyond the discussion forums for our class on fordham.blackboard.com, please email me at nickleshy@aol.com or call me on my cell phone. Here's a quick overview of the assignments that we'll be looking at this semester. I can only grade on the work you do, so here are the deadlines. Don't hesitate to ask me if you have any questions. You should have hopefully started creating a blog, so the assignment is to post at least one new blog entry a week. Also, you need to post a link to your blog on our class wiki. That's where you'll find the blogs of your fellow classmates. Every week, you need to read them and post a comment where appropriate. In our class syllabus, I've listed reading assignments that you should check out. On October 16, the midterm assignment will be due. It's a compilation of your reviews of your classmates' blogs, about a paragraph long for each review. We'll talk about online reviews in one of our upcoming classes. Then, before November 13, our guest post assignment will be due, where you'll have to write a guest entry on someone else's blog or website. Finally, on or before December 11, the final paper is due. 5 pages on your experience as an online writer and your thoughts on the future of online writing. Again, we'll talk about that as the date approaches. Let's review our required reading assignment for this week, Chapter 1 of Blogging by Jill Walker Retberg. The title of the chapter is What is a Blog? And it's a good overview of online journals and how they fit into the broader cyberverse, the world of online content. The internet in some form has been around for more than half a century, and the World Wide Web has been in place since the 1990s, yet the phrase new media still clings to online communications. Lately, we've seen an enormous growth in online content with the spread of mobile devices and the popularity of social networks. New tools continue to emerge, providing quick and easy ways for people around the world to create and distribute their own content, and to share and comment on the content of others. This is yet another new benchmark in the evolution of online media. It's been called Web 2.0. What exactly does that mean? Here's how Retberg describes it in her book. The term Web 2.0 is meant to characterize a second generation of websites. The first wave of web developers focused largely on publishing content. Web 2.0, on the other hand, develops services that allow users to share their own content and to use the web as a platform. So even though the internet offers many interactive features that made it far different from traditional media such as email and message boards and eventually instant messaging and chat rooms, at first when the World Wide Web was launched, it was for the most part used as another broadcasting tool. Build a website to spread your message to a mostly passive audience surfing the net looking for content. Now, it has become far more interactive, and the content is far more diversified, created by anyone who has access to the many tools that are available, such as YouTube, iTunes, Facebook, WordPress, Twitter, Wikipedia, Flickr, and so on. The web is now a media platform for the masses to use and create, not just to view. Now they can engage and interact, not just sit back and read or watch. So online journals, which originated in the rise of the World Wide Web, have become an even greater tool for communication and expression. As Retberg writes, blogs are part of a larger context. They are part of a history of communication and literacy, and emblematic of a shift from unidirectional mass media to participatory media, where viewers and readers become creators of media. As I mentioned in one of my first lecture presentations, traditional media are for primarily unidirectional one-way broadcasting or publishing a message to the masses. Online media, including blogs, are participatory. They allow conversations, debates, collaborations far better than those traditional mass media. They also allow the masses to be their own broadcasters, their own publishers, their own critics and reporters. By its nature, any content online is more than just mere words. The visual element and the hypertextual functionality, which we'll talk about in a moment, are paramount. Redberg writes, "A literary critic will rarely see the binding of a book as being important to its literary quality. A blog, however, cannot be read simply for its writing, but will always be seen as the sum of writing, layout, connections and links, and tempo. As we'll see, although the written word is still vital, it is tied to the aesthetic and interactive components of the online environment. They go hand in hand." Redberg mentions an interesting correlation in the choice of words to describe online journals. The word blog is a contraction of the words web and log. The word log is taken from nautical navigation and originally referred to a chronological record of events during a sea journey. The implicit transfer of the navigation metaphor to the web is fitting, as people tended to talk about navigating and surfing the web. Unlike the linear, mostly single-path direction of messages and other traditional methods of communication, online media allows the user to jump around, like a surfer hopping the waves. The user can swerve and turn in every possible direction like a navigator of a ship at sea, unlike traditional media, which are limited like cars on a highway, unable to get off the road. Now let's look at some of the elements associated with blogging. Redberg explains, 3 characteristics define blogging: frequency, brevity, and personality. This triad refers to the familiar though not uncontroversial rules for good writing: clarity, brevity, and sincerity. So online writing has many similarities to writing in general, whether it's online or offline, but it also has distinctive features of its own. Let's look at each one that Redberg mentions. First, frequency. Blogs consist of frequent posts. It is important to maintain a regular schedule of new content. Unlike newspaper articles or certain print books or magazine features, which can all be standalone one-shot events, barring the occasional series or sequels or follow-ups, blogs by their very nature and definition are a sequence of posts, time-stamped to show when they were uploaded. With blogs, readers expect that there will be more content coming their way. They might also wish to skim through the archives, reading previous posts. If it was just a one-time only event, it wouldn't be a blog, it would just be a web page. The frequency of any blog depends on the blogger. Some choose to post every day, others choose to write only on weekdays, still others choose every other day or 3 times a week, or maybe only on weekends. For our class blogs, I've asked that you post once a week. I think that's a manageable frequency level that allows you to maintain quality control and not overdo it. There can be extremes on both sides. Some wait an excruciatingly long time between posts, sometimes even months, while others post multiple times a day, making it overwhelming and difficult to keep up. Second, brevity. Blogs have a reputation for being relatively brief. Please note that I've underlined the word relatively. Although microblogs like Twitter have focused on the economy of words, limiting their users to a certain finite number of characters per post, blogs in general vary in length. The rule of thumb for how long a blog entry should be is simple: as long as it needs to be and no longer. The message of the post is what matters, and that should be clear. Don't worry about too short or too long. Instead, it should follow the Goldilocks rule: just right. A blog post should be long enough to say what needs to be said, and short enough to keep the reader's interest. That's very important. Blogs are relatively brief compared to many forms of traditional writing. Blogs are not as long as a novel or a term paper, but they're usually longer than a status update on Facebook or Twitter. Third, personality. Blog posts are personal, even when written anonymously. They should come across as sincere and transparent in order to engage the reader. The best online writers elicit some emotion from their readers or they engage them enough to compel them to react somehow. It's all about showing a bit of yourself, either emotionally, intellectually, spiritually, so that the reader can connect. It's that connection that makes us, that takes us to the social element that's present in the blogosphere. Redberg writes, blogs are social. Most blogs allow and encourage readers to leave comments, and almost all use links to link sources and other bloggers discussing similar topics. Readers can participate in a dialogue with the writer or with the other readers. Links can transport them to a world beyond the blog post. Connections exist everywhere. If you watched my introductory video, I mentioned a thought exercise and asked you to imagine 3 people from different times sitting under a tree. One lost in his own thoughts, another reading a print book, and a third reading something online through some sort of mobile internet device. Out of those 3, the first 2 people are engaging in very solitary actions. The third one, the one using online media, has the ability to connect to other readers in real time, receive and deliver instant feedback, and participate in conversations with other individuals or with entire communities. Thanks to the technology available in this Web 2.0 age, blogging is so simple almost anyone can do it. Redberg elaborates. Early bloggers hand-coded their sites, meaning that they had to create their blogs from scratch and edit raw HTML code or use a visual HTML editor like Dreamweaver each time they updated the blog. WYSIWYG blogging platforms, what you see is what you get, opened up blogging to regular people. Just like people who drive a car don't need to necessarily know how a combustible engine works, or people who use a telephone don't need to know the details about how their voice carries to the person far away with whom they're speaking. Now people from all walks of life can start and maintain their own blogs through user-friendly tools such as WordPress or Google's Blogger. Now I'd like to explore hypertext a bit. I'll reference a book that's not required for this class but offers some good ideas I want to share with you as I explain one of the key features of online writing that sets it apart from traditional forms of writing. The book is Writing Space: Computers, Hypertext, and the Remediation of Print by J. David Bolter. He mentions how the idea of hypertext began long before the online world we know today. Even prior to the success of the World Wide Web, he says, some computer scientists had turned their attention to hypertext. One of those computer scientists was Ted Nelson. Way back in 1965, he imagined what hypertext could be, a kind of writing that could go beyond the limitations of print. He said, quote, "Hypertext is a body of written or pictorial material interconnected in such a complex way that it could not conveniently be presented or represented on paper." Even back then, he and others in his field could start speculating on a means of communication that was connected in a way far beyond the linear, two-dimensional setup of traditional writing. They also recognized that words and images could coexist in a new way. Nelson explained further in 1970, "Hypertext means forms of writing which branch or perform on request. They are best represented on computer display screens. Hypertext consists of separate pieces of text connected by links." Hard to believe that he said that in 1970, but he did, and that still holds up as an excellent description of what hypertext is and how it works. Links interconnect different online pages, creating a virtually never-ending web of information. The reader needs to be active rather than passive to take advantage of everything hypertext has to offer. The reader is in control of the paths he or she decides to explore. Readers can go backwards and forwards from one page to the next and back again. That's hypertext. What changes did this brave new online world bring about? Suddenly the written word was malleable. It could be altered by the reader. Unlike traditional writers, an online writer now has to face instant feedback and the uncertainty of how exactly their words would be read. The potential now exists for online words to be quickly copied, shared, linked to, changed, repurposed, mashed up with someone else's words or images, all each easier to do than ever before. In the heyday of print, we came to regard the written text as an unchanging artifact, a monument to its author and its age. We also tended to magnify the distance between the author and the reader, as the author became a monumental figure, the reader only a visitor in the author's cathedral. Now, even the words of William Shakespeare are ripe for reimagining, available at our fingertips with other public domain works at Project Gutenberg. Even content that is copyrighted, the intellectual property of someone else, is so easy to take and make our own, opening up a whole can of worms about copyright infringement versus fair use, which we'll discuss another day. In the current late age of print, we seem more impressed by the impermanence and changeability of text, and digital technology seems to reduce the distance between author and reader by turning the reader into an author him or herself. William Shakespeare depended on others to compile, print, and circulate the folios of his stage plays. Today, we all can write our own material, and no matter if it's good or bad, distribute it to an audience of millions. Good content will still have an advantage in getting noticed and remembered, but now even mediocre or subpar content has a chance for attention. With the positives come the negatives. You've heard the criticisms of online content, the accusations that quality has been compromised in exchange for convenience. Does it contribute to the alleged dumbing down of our culture? The shift to the computer may make writing more flexible, but it also threatens the definitions of good writing and careful reading that have developed in association with the technique of printing. Digital media may also challenge alphabetic writing in any form. Although printed books, newspapers, and magazines can and do combine graphics with text, new digital media seem often to favor graphics at the expense of text. There is no doubt that even though the internet has caused a resurgence in the written word, it still favors the visual. Dynamic content is king. Images, color, layout, sound, video, animation, and movement are much more attention-grabbing than just static words on a page or screen. Bolter writes, "The question is whether alphabetic text can compete effectively with the visual and oral sensorium that surrounds us. Print has been threatened not just by online media, but also by radio, television, and movies, and it has managed to survive. It is facing one of its greatest challenges to date as online media threaten its existence. It can be argued that text, the written word, is back in a strong way with new media, even if print itself is becoming more endangered." Bolter explains the power of online writing. Hypertextual writing can go further than traditional print writing because it can change for each reader and with each reading. Authors can exploit the dynamic quality of hypertext to alter the nature of an audience's shared experience in reading. In other words, hypertext is not the same as traditional writing. It offers readers something they can't get from the printed page. The continuous flow of words and pages in the printed book is supplanted in electronic space by abrupt changes of direction and tempo as the user interacts with a web page or other interface. Despite its similarities to traditional reading and writing, it is also extremely different. In traditional reading and writing, we are trained to approach it in a linear fashion. If someone in the Western world hands you a book, we all know where to begin reading, left to right, up to down. Linear writing is appropriate to print technology both because the printed page readily accommodates linear text and because our culture expects that printed prose should be linear. Other styles may be appropriate to digital technology. Online content still does not have such clearly defined rules. Bolter talks about remediation, how new media are changing the old. He writes, remediation, typically understood as the correction of something, also refers to a newer medium taking the place of an older one, borrowing and reorganizing the characteristics of writing in the older medium and reforming its cultural space. Remediation involves both homage and rivalry, for the new medium imitates some features of the older medium, but also makes an explicit or implicit claim to improve on the older one. Homage means tribute, and rivalry means competition, so you can see there's a conflict between the two. Online writing attempts to take the best of what worked for traditional reading and writing, but also attempts to improve upon it. As an example, look at an electronic reader, such as Amazon's Kindle or Barnes & Noble's Nook, or even Apple's iPad. Their marketers boast that they can do everything print can do, but more. They can store more content, they have built-in dictionaries, they can allow the reader to add digital bookmarks and notes. What are the negatives? Some people miss the tactile feel of a print book, but is that really a valid critique? Or just a personal preference by those who grew up with books and hold on to them for nostalgic reasons? What do you think? Are there benefits of print media that online media can never hope to match? That could be something you can explore in the final paper. Links are major examples of something we find in online media that we don't see in the print form. But wait, maybe we do. On the World Wide Web, one page can be linked electronically to many others. In one sense, this linking is simply the electronic equivalent of the footnote and endnotes used in printed books for hundreds of years. Instead of looking to the bottom of the page or the end of the book, the reader positions the cursor and the computer retrieves and displays the reference. So footnotes and endnotes are in some ways the print equivalent of digital links. There is an important difference, though, between print footnotes and online links. The second web page can also contain linked phrases that in turn lead the reader to other web pages. The process can continue indefinitely as the reader moves through a textual space that, in the case of the World Wide Web, can extend throughout the internet. Have any of you read David Foster Wallace's massive novel Infinite Jest? It contains extensive footnotes and footnotes of footnotes. It's an example of how, even in the hands of a master like Wallace, print has limitations. Too many footnotes can become overwhelming. Online, there are no real limits thanks to hypertext. You can get lost in cyberspace. Imagine if Wallace wrote Infinite Jest as an online book or a narrative blog. Also, the second page in an online article to which a reader has linked is not necessarily subordinate to the first. All the individual pages may be of equal importance in the whole text, which becomes a network of interconnected writings. There arguably is no beginning or end online. It's like trying to find a beginning or an ending to a circle. Such a network is called a hypertext, and it is the creation and presentation of such hypertextual structures that seem to constitute a new form of writing. Through our computers, through our mobile devices, eventually through other gadgets or hookups that we haven't even imagined yet, we're able to read and, most importantly, write in this new hypertextual reality. Much of this is written in HTML code. HTML stands for Hypertext Markup Language. It's currently the predominant markup language for web pages, the basic building blocks of what we see online. Other programming languages exist, such as Java, but HTML is still a primary one. How many of you have seen the movie The Matrix? In it, the world we know is nothing more than a computer-fabricated mirage. When the world is revealed for what it really is, we see a stream of code. That's fiction, but if we look at the real world of online content, we find something similar. Web browsers such as Microsoft Internet Explorer, Google Chrome, Firefox, Safari, and others help us see what the programmers want us to see online. As in the Matrix movies, HTML code is meant to be the invisible back end, behind the scenes. If we see that HTML code or any other verbatim code on the finished front end, it's a mistake. We have the tools now that allow the masses to create and share content as well as view, comment, edit, and participate in other people's content without having to build it all from scratch ourselves. The World Wide Web was created by Timothy Berners-Lee. The use of a written word URL address system instead of just a numerical address system led to the easier to remember and easier to market domain name system. HTTP stands for Hypertext Transfer Protocol. It's a networking protocol for distributed, collaborative, hypermedia information systems. It is the foundation of data communication for the World Wide Web. So you can see the difference between online hypertext and traditional printed text. Where traditional genres are linear or hierarchical, hypertext is multiple and associative. Where a printed text is static, a hypertext responds to the reader's touch. The reader can move through a hypertext document in a variety of reading orders. So which is better? As I briefly mentioned in my introductory video, it's not a question of one medium being better or worse than the other. They each have their pros and cons, their strengths and weaknesses. Whether multilinearity and interactivity really do render hypertext better than print is a cultural determination. The question becomes, better in what sense, for whose purposes, and as various contemporary critics would immediately ask, for whose economic benefit. So it depends on points of view. The supporters of digital media argue that hypertext reflects the nature of the human mind itself, that because we think associatively, not linearly, hypertext allows us to write as we think. The supporters of print argue that by its definition, digital communication is outside of nature and abandons some of the deep thinking benefits that print communication has brought to civilization as we know it. But both media, print and digital, depend on each other. In this late age of print, the two technologies, print and electronic writing, still need each other. Print forms the tradition upon which electronic writing depends, and electronic writing is that which goes beyond print. Print is becoming hypermediated in order to hold its readers, incorporating verbal genres and gestures in self-conscious imitation of and rivalry with electronic media, especially the World Wide Web. Just look at the examples of print newspapers such as USA Today, which attempt to mimic some of the design elements that we're all familiar with online. The For Dummies book are similarly designed that way. Most, if not all, major print publications have seen the writing on the wall and have moved online themselves, such as Time.com. Although this isn't a coding class, here are some examples of HTML tags, what an HTML editor would use to manipulate the appearance of a web page. A web browser makes those HTML tags invisible to the internet user, who only sees the end result. An HTML editor can override the defaults and allow you to make changes and fix mistakes. Computer languages are constantly growing, and if that's your interest, you can find plenty of free online tutorials to teach you about HTML or Java or countless others. The goal of this class is to teach you to think about online writing and to aid you in perfecting your writing skills online. You've heard that saying, give a man a fish and he'll eat for a day, teach a man to fish and he'll never go hungry again. Just focusing on code isn't online writing. It's design and computer programming, all fine disciplines, but they're not writing. Once you learn how to communicate via words and storytelling, once you learn of the biases of online environments versus other forms of media, then no matter what your platform might be, no matter how the internet might change in the years to come, no matter what new media technology might rise up to take its place, you should still have the writing skills to succeed. So here are some quick examples of HTML tags just to see what we're talking about. This example sets off the title and other information that isn't displayed on the web page itself. The first part of the tag is placed before the text you wanted to manipulate, and the second half goes at the end. This tag sets off the visible portion of the document. This is what you'll see. If you want to change the background color, this is the tag to use. Now be reminded that all the major blogging platforms do this for you automatically, but if you want to make tweaks that aren't obvious, the blogging platforms offer HTML editors for editing as well. So if you know HTML, you can jump right in and make the changes directly. This tag permits you to set the text color via its name or hex value, which is a specific number for each color. If you want to create a hyperlink through HTML, this is the tag that allows you to do it. Where it says URL, that's where you type in the web address. And you can also alter the color of links if you don't like the traditional blue. And you can change what color they turn into after they've been clicked. That helps the reader keep track of which links you've already explored and which you haven't. This HTML tag turns your words into bold text. So you place the B before the words you want to turn into bold, and then you place the end of that tag at the end of the word or the phrase. This one turns them into italics. You can set the size of your font or the color of your font. Here's the tag for creating a new paragraph. You can even add a mail to link so readers can reach out to you directly via email. Or you can make an image serve as a working link. The possibilities are endless. If you have a print book, you can highlight certain passages. You can write personal notes in the margins. But as Bolter concludes, you can't change the printed words so that other readers with the same printed text see the changes or additions you made. Readers of a printed book can write over or deface the text, but they cannot write in it. In the electronic medium, however, readers cannot avoid writing the text itself because every choice they make is an act of writing. And that, my friends, is the secret power of online writing thanks to hypertext. If you have any questions, please let me know. Maybe some of these ideas might serve to spark some thoughts for your final paper, which we'll talk about in the weeks to come.